Hello once again to the Onion Creature Book Club. Today's literature is Kirby Manga Mania, Volume 1. Now, I believe this is the first localization of the Kirby manga, which has existed for an incredibly long time in Japan. I didn't have any prior experience with the Kirby manga, so getting to read it for the first time was pretty nice. And, you know, since Kirby has been absent from games for a bit, this is a good way to fill the gap between games. So I'll just go through chapter by chapter and we'll look at what we have to work with. First of all being Kirby the Loopy Picnic Crasher. Kirby goes to a picnic being held by King DDD, and he drinks some loopy juice, which it's alcohol. Kirby gets heavily inebriated in chapter 1, so we're off to a great start. So basically he just ruins this picnic. It's a common theme throughout this collection, is Kirby just destroying everything for no reason. This isn't really like a game Kirby or even anime Kirby where he's mostly a good guy and is trying to do the right thing. He's really just a bastard in this. So you might be aware of Kirby's signature catchphrase being Poyo, but in the manga, for some reason, his catchphrase that he says constantly is He Po. I don't really know what to make of that, but I thought I'd mention it. The next one is where King DDD becomes a toy for some reason. He gets cursed by a smear. That's what that is. Bit odd. Now we have chapter 3, Typhoon Kirby makes landfall in Dreamland. This is basically where King DDD is preparing because there's like a typhoon coming. So he's trying to ready his castle, and Kirby comes and in the process of trying to ready everything, basically just destroys the entire castle and causes a great deal of pain and suffering to everyone within the vicinity. And then they're like, oh, the typhoon isn't coming actually. So yeah, basically Kirby just destroys everything. Chapter 4 is also strange. It's basically the plot of Face Off recreated with King DDD instead of John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. This one Kirby enemy disguises himself as King DDD so that King DDD won't get like beat up by Kirby. King DDD switches face with his doppelganger, and then at the end Kirby and King DDD switch faces. I don't, it's weird. The next one is where Gooey is sitting on King DDD's head, and then he gets stuck there, and then Gooey like transmits King DDD's thoughts. So that's kind of the plot of that. Dark Matter shows up for a bit. He's just there. In the chapter after that, they go to a haunted hotel. They get spooked. Chapter 7, King DDD's robotic pet craze. This one, there's a robot that looks suspiciously like Kirby that King DDD has come to own. He's very attached to it. So of course Kirby just demolishes it, and then he disguises himself as the robot and attempts to convince King DDD that he is the robot. Chapter 8, The Comforts of the 22nd Century. This is where they go to the future. Chapter 9, they get trapped in a board game. It's like a haunted board game. And then go to chapter 10, The Founding of Kirby Land. Basically where Kirby decides to make his own country. Shenanigans ensue. And then finally we have chapter 11, The Big Comeback. Things Kirby always wanted to try. This is the finale chapter of the manga, and in it Kirby tries a bunch of things that he has not done before. Yeah, so those are like all the main chapters. In between them they have like shorter little comic strips, which are also pretty fun. I really enjoyed checking out the Kirby manga. I've known of its existence for like forever, but I've just never bothered to actually read any of it because it was not available officially as far as I know. This was a good opportunity to check out a piece of Kirby that I missed out on. The characterizations in this manga are kind of out there, but I think that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be pretty wacky. The illustrations are pretty great. There's lots of extremely exaggerated expressions. The plots that they go through are not super complex, but they're pretty entertaining. And overall, it's a good time. It's pretty cheap. It's just $10. As I said, I like the cover and stuff. I think the design is really nice. And there's going to be 3 more of these coming out throughout the year of 2021. Volume 2 is releasing in September. Volume 3 is releasing in November, I believe. And so I'll also be checking out those. Lots of good Kirby literature releasing this year. We just had the Star Allies art book released in March. And we got these coming out in the US, which is great. And I'm just glad to have all this Kirby stuff while we wait for the inevitable next game, which I was expecting at E3, I'll be honest. I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record, but I do expect Kirby news very soon at the next Nintendo Direct, probably. The 30th anniversary is just about 6 months away, so there's definitely got to be something coming. And until then, we can enjoy some nice Kirby manga to keep ourselves occupied. And thus concludes this 3rd edition of the Onion Creature Book Club. Thank you all for viewing this. Much appreciated, I must say.